How's everybody doing today? You guys let me know in the comments. As always, making sure testing everybody can hear, making sure everything sounds okay. I'm good. Thanks, Ivan. Appreciate it. Today, guys, we have Paco. Good afternoon, Paco. A little bit earlier of a time that we're typically have these little lives for you guys. Wednesdays at 8 is our typical time. Now we got a 6 o'clock, or a little bit after 6. We actually have Texas State Senator for District 19, Roland Gutierrez, State Senator. He reached out to us already, let us know that he's got tied up in a few committee meetings. So we're waiting for him to become available so we can ask him a couple of questions. We have some brief questions about him, and then about what he's doing in the Senate. And then we're going to go ahead and get into local politics and recent items that have been coming up lately. Most notably, just the other day, yesterday, in Maverick County Commissioner's Court. We do have some time while we wait for the senator. Like I said, he's a little bit busy right now in Senate committee hearings, and we understand that. His staff, I do want to give a shout out to his staff. They have been trying to get this set up and everything. We see actually the senator is available for us right now. He just came on the video, so we'll go ahead and bring him up right away. We know he's busy and everything, so for you guys watching right now and the ones that are going to see, we're going to have a District 19. He's in our district. Maverick County does cover his district. Texas State Senator Roland Gutierrez. Let's bring him on, guys.
How are you?
Hey, Senator Gutierrez. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me. I appreciate you.
No, thank you very much for joining us. I know you're in a little bit of a busy schedule right now, so we really appreciate you taking the time. I believe your staff just mentioned you got out of some Senate committee hearings, so thank you very much for joining us briefly.
Yes, thank you, Zach. I'll tell you that it's getting to that point in the session where we get a little bit busier on things that we're trying to get done. The Senate is not much different than the House. It's like making sausage. It all comes out at the end. So we start to have to work a little harder, work a little later into the night. Next week we'll probably start working Saturdays. I mean, so it's going to get a little bit busy for us here very soon.
No, yeah, and which is the reason why we thank you so much for joining us briefly, for catching us. And we're going to go ahead and get right into the questions that we have, some information that we want to know what's going on. As Maverick County and the area surrounding District 19, we are your registered voters, and we thank you for coming down here and giving us a little bit of time to talk about a few issues that we have and some of the recent Senate bills that you've been backing and coming out with. I think you caught a lot of attention also with the SB 140, the legalization of marijuana. So we want to get into that. But one of the things that we want to bring out first of all is the recent what's going on here in Maverick County and several border communities as well. The border immigration crisis that we're having right now. A lot of our viewers have been following it closely. When we see, what comes out on Facebook, Twitter, and everything, and you get some pretty concerning photos and everything. And a lot of what we have gotten from our community is, hey, we need to reach out to our elected officials and being our state senator. We wanted to see what you thought about it and how you see things as far as the issues that we have right now going on in the border.
Yeah, I mean, it's a complicated issue for a lot of reasons. Number one, people on the right like to call it an immigration issue. What's happening on the border is not an immigration issue. It's a humanitarian crisis, and it's different. We have 12 million undocumented Mexicans, mostly Mexicans, in the United States that have been in the United States for over 20 years. I hope that the Biden administration fixes the problem for those people that have been in here for so long. The Central American crisis is something that we've seen over the last several years, and it's really a little bit different. We have asylum laws. We have laws that protect people that are being harmed for political reasons, for religious reasons in their own countries, that are being, sought out, if you will. Obviously, the Central American problem has a lot to do, not just with the gang issues of MS-13 and others, but a government that really doesn't give their own people any protection. How it affects us locally and what we can do locally, I was proud to joint author a bill with Senator Seliger out of Amarillo. And that bill said that the groups, the homes that are receiving some of these children, those entities need to tell our counties what they're doing, how many kids they're going to get, report to us, make sure that they don't become a burden on our counties and our taxpayers, right? There's not a whole lot that we can do at the state level about immigration, but we sure can make sure that the companies that are benefiting from taking care of these children are doing the right thing, not just for the children, which is the primary concern, but also for the counties in which they're situated. They're making quite a bit of money to care for these children. We, as human beings, need to make sure that we do that and care for kids that are alone and in danger. And that's something that I think that we all want as Americans, want to be able to say. We can't just send kids back by themselves to their homeland. And so it is a incredibly complicated problem. From a law enforcement perspective, we've set out our next budget and we've appropriated the monies again for DPS to have more DPS presence along the border. I think that you'll see that, continue to see that, especially in Maverick County and Valverde. And so we're doing the best we can with a hard situation. Certainly, the issues on immigration are so complex, but I think that it's important that people understand the difference. We have a humanitarian border crisis, and then we have an immigration labor workforce problem that we've had for the last 20 years that we certainly need our congressmen and our U.S. senators to address, and we're here to help in any way.
Absolutely. And the reason why we brought you up, we've had other guests in our show, one more than anybody, the city of Del Rio mayor, and he's the one that came out against the Biden administration and was really concerned about the issue. He's a declared Democrat, and he shares a lot of concern as far as what's going on here. And what I do want to touch is that we see pictures every day of hundreds and hundreds of immigrants, coming over here. Do you think there was any effect as to whenever this administration came in to pass, comparing the past administration, or is this things that we've always seen and is going to continue to be seen as we go along?
I don't think it's anything different than we saw under the Bush administration, father or son, Clinton administration or Obama administration. And I dare say not any different from the Trump administration. It wasn't until the last 2 years, the last 18 months, that President Trump said, well, we're going to have people wait on the other side. That didn't, to ask for asylum. That didn't stop people from coming over. That didn't stop our communities from being, from these people crossing over and having to deal with this issue. The difference was, and I'm not going to sit here and characterize what any particular mayor or local community person has done, but listen, under no circumstances should any child be put in a cage. And we all saw it. So let's not turn our eyes to it and say that Donald Trump did the right thing by putting kids in cages, because that's just wrong. And for any American, Republican or Democrat, to allow that to happen, it's just wrong. And so, I think the Biden administration has done a decent job with a very bad situation. The larger issues of immigration and this humanitarian crisis need to be addressed on a more international level. In the 1980s and 90s, we pumped a lot of money into Colombia to fix the problems in Colombia. Why do we do that? Why is it our job? Part and parcel because of this. We don't want folks coming over in this way, coming into our backyards, right? And so, as a country, it is the best country in the world, like we like to say. It is important that we help our neighbors so our neighbors can help themselves and begin to solve their own problems. Now, I'm not suggesting that we go in and prop up Central America, but there's a lot of ways that our federal counterparts can hurt countries or help countries. And we need to use all of those federal resources to make sure that those governments are doing the right things for their citizenry so that their citizenry doesn't feel compelled to go on, a year and a half journey that is fraught with peril. And it's just not right in any way. And so we're in a very bad situation. Pero todos somos seres humanos. We're all human beings. And before we put on a Republican hat or a Democrat hat, we need to put our human being hat on and figure out what it is that we have to do as human beings for people. Politically, these people are always going to come because this is America and the land of opportunity. We have to figure out how to do better for those countries so that we can stop the stream of immigration flows. But I'm not a U.S. Senator and I'm not a U.S. Congressman. I can only do what we did with Senator Seliger's bill, which is to make sure that companies that are utilizing and housing these children are doing right for our counties. Reeves County, for instance, this entity that was up there, didn't let the county know what was going on, didn't let us know how many kids were happening. And so there was a whole lot of catch up that we had to do. And so we're going to try to give the resources we can where we can and do the right thing. But the immigration issue, a very vast and complicated issue. And I would only ask people before you judge, think it through a little bit, understand that there's a lot of multiple facets to it. You just saw our census numbers. We're declining in population. There are a lot of labor sectors where, quite frankly, Americans just don't want to work. They don't want to be on a rooftop in the middle of 110-degree summer. And so that's to those other issues, the DAPA, the Deferred Action for Parent Accountability that we saw under the Obama administration, that I think that we're going to see back here again. And hopefully we'll solve the problem for those 10 or 12 million folks that have been here for 20 years now that are all over the United States. Again, two different problems, an immigration problem and the humanitarian problem at the border. We are appropriating more money in security, and so that's all I can say at this juncture.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Moving on, I do want to ask about SB 522, University of Sul Ross to A&M system from the Texas state system. How is that going for you?
It's been tough. Those types of bills, I call them transformational bills. I filed mine first, and Representative Morales, we talked, and he filed his in the House. And as I told him from the beginning, I said, Eddie, transformational bills, and they take time. Usually they're done in the interim, but I wasn't the senator, and Eddie wasn't the representative, and so we didn't have time. We didn't have an interim. We were both freshmen, if you will. Even though I had been in the legislature for 12 years, I was not the senator of this area. And so the best way to introduce it was a little bit of shock and awe. And I understand that some communities, especially in Alpine, few people didn't like it. At the end of the day, both Eddie and myself have been met with resounding support for this legislation. The data speaks for itself. Sul Ross is not doing well. 19% graduation rates are not acceptable. 1,100 students per up in Alpine is not acceptable. Graduating 300 kids in Alpine is not acceptable. Not much different in the Rio Grande colleges. I want people to start looking at what's happening around them. This Board of Regents is going to change some rules this summer where they start counting Alpine in together with Rio Grande colleges, and that's not right because they're trying to change their statistics and better them up, if you will. Make the picture a little bit more flowery, and that's. We have to be able to get the data that's accurate. And so I'm going to make sure that happens over time and make sure that at least I'm getting the data that is appropriate for each of the individual schools. At the end of the day, the Rio Grande colleges actually have more students than Alpine does.
Oh, wow.
In either instance, the Texas state system is not doing well for the community. The 10 years of the last data has shown it. declining enrollments and declining graduation rates are not enough. This is our tax dollars. We deserve better, and that's why I filed this bill. There's been a lot of myths and half-truths in this thing. We're going to continue to fight. We're going to continue to work, really, more than anything else. Unfortunately, there's been a lot of politics involved. There's been some lobbying on behalf of the Texas state system. I would argue that is illegal. An institution cannot use general revenue funds to lobby against a proposition. As you know, the Texas state chancellor is a former member of the House, as well as the president at Sul Ross. These issues are not personal to me. That's the other myth, that somehow I have got some kind of axe to grind with folks. I won. I'm the senator, and I'm a policymaker, and I felt that this was the right thing to do, because after talking to the Harrison Keller, the Higher Education Coordinating Board chair, the executive director, we knew that the numbers had been declining for so many years. And he said, the data is clear. You're not wrong here. We've got to do something. At the end of the day, what happens when there's 800 students, 600 students? Do we keep dropping millions of dollars into a school that's not functioning? And this notion that we should give this next president a chance is ridiculous, because the chancellor has had this school for 11 years now, the current chancellor. The buck stops with Brian McCall. Brian McCall needs to account to us as a community, and he hasn't done so. And so in that regard, yeah, it is personal. I feel that the chancellor, who's, quite frankly, made this an issue where he's used state-funded dollars, taxpayer dollars, to lobby against this program, against this bill, it's just revolting to me. I'm going to keep fighting, and I'm going to keep moving forward until we do better for our kids in the Rio Grande colleges. If these folks want to sit here and illegally lobby members of the legislature as they have, I'm going to get out in the interim, and I'm going to keep working so that the next session, when we get back in here, we'll be able to have a very full-fledged discussion on this issue. And we'll call hearings, and we'll continue to get open records requests. I asked for open records requests on illegal lobbying. I've gotten my answers, and I have found emails as well as text messages that prove that these people were doing what they weren't supposed to be doing. And so at the end of the day, it's about our kids. It's about our taxpayers, and it's about making sure that we are doing the best for our universities. Texas State has done an awful job. And I want to continue to support them, passed a bill to give them more money. But at what point do we say that we're throwing good money after bad? It's really disconcerting, the amount of the level of misinformation that has been put out by the administration. I would be glad to sit down with them, not in private, but in public on your show, and have a discussion. And they can put out all the arguments that they've done before in the past, and all the myths and half-truths on your show or any other. And I would be glad to discuss why we need to make this move. It's my hope that we'll be able to do it, if not this session, in the next one, because our communities deserve better.
Absolutely, and we hope you do choose this show. I mean, we'll reach out to them, of course. That's what we always like to provide the audience that does see, and the thousands of viewers that we get after from our lives, is both sides of the story, so everybody knows what's going on. So hopefully, if we can get something like that set up, that would be great. We would love to have you back, and of course the administration from the Texas state system. That way we can maybe get something, squashed, and everybody else can see what it is that actually going on in the background.
I'd like to do it. And I don't need to have people, talking about, different myths about whether I talk to anybody or not. I've got emails, text messages, and so on. At the end of the day, the data supports our position. I have given them an opportunity to give me what their plans are. I've asked for a 5-year plan and a 10-year plan. I've received nothing other than 118 pages of marketing material, 5 pages of which suggest that they need to make a better website. That's not a plan. And I have asked again for a 5-year and a 10-year plan. I was told that none was forthcoming. And so I do 5-year plans in my business. In my business life, as you know, we're volunteers at the Texas Capitol. We don't get paid. In my businesses, I do 5-year and 10-year plans. And yeah, sure, the longer range plans are aspirational, but by God, do something. Our kids deserve it. And so we're doing the best we can.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate that out here in District 19. I want to go ahead and move into SB 140. This was your baby, if I'm not mistaken, and we've seen a lot of. I've seen, and I'm sure some of the public has seen the documentary that was released just recently. So this is a thing that's going on. It's happened in several states nationwide where they either go with recreational marijuana or they go fully legalize recreational marijuana or legalize medical marijuana, which has, of course, some restrictions with it. What we want to know is what your thoughts are about it. We know you're pushing for this because we did see the documentary, great documentary, by the way. What's the goal here? I do know you put in the SB for the recreational marijuana, and I believe we have Joe Menendez for medical marijuana as well. Maybe if you can explain the differences and what you support and what you're willing to go to for Texas.
Yeah, I'd be willing to support anything except for the status quo. Listen, I've been in the legislature for 12 years, and in the Senate now this first time around, but I've been in the state house. I was fully aware of the notion that I was going to pass a recreational marijuana bill, and I didn't file it, loosely either. I didn't file it just because. We have to start the discussion. And the legislature is a game of inches where you get, from one step to the next, session after session, on important transformational pieces of legislation. It is my hope that we do something on cannabis. Every state around us has legalized cannabis. Oklahoma, a very conservative state, has the most liberal medical marijuana bill in the nation. Montana and Arizona just legalized. Those are two very red states. I've talked to the lieutenant governor, and that's probably why cannabis isn't going anywhere. I mean, he's just not in favor. And I understand it. I understand his position. But, at what point have we ever seen an industry that can come in and with the passage of this singular legislation, create 30,000 jobs and generate $3.6 billion in tax revenue in a biennium? And so we just haven't had an industry be able to do that. Here we are. And when we're raising other revenue, it means that we're not raising property taxes at home. This notion that we are going to create a black market, if we do it like California still has a black market, well, we have a black market now. 11% of our high school kids are smoking pot, and that's not right. We can pass this bill, set a floor of age 21. We can regulate it in a proper way. We can create distribution and retail shops. Our farmers would benefit. Our manufacturing would benefit. I visited Canada where they had a plant with 1,500 employees all making over $18 an hour. That's the kind of thing that it can transform communities, right? They took an old town, they took an old Hershey's chocolate factory and were able to turn it around overnight when they created this industry in Canada. The reason I did the documentary was so that people, we grew up, you and I grew up watching old Cheech and Chong movies, and I wanted people to understand that cannabis and the people that are using cannabis, that it's not that old paradigm, that we deserve to at least know the truth. And the truth is that, in the last 50 years, in modern times, we used to use it in medicine in the 1900s. And when Prohibition came about, it kind of stopped for a lot of reasons. And then Richard Nixon demanded that it insisted that it be put on Schedule 1. And ever since then, it's been part of the war on drugs. We know even from his own commission that he kind of hid the report when it came out. He published it on December 31st, 1969. That report suggested that marijuana has less addictive qualities than alcohol, 7% addictive rates to 15% on alcohol. Not one person has ever died from cannabis overdose. And they also suggested that it has high therapeutic value. And so, listen, it's not because I want to go over there on the corner and smoke weed. We have to do the right thing. We have to be able to regulate a product that's in use right now, make sure that Texas consumers are consuming a product that's safe and healthy and right, and give people options. We have to turn back the lives of the over 600,000 youth that we've ruined in the last 15 years for smoking a little bit of pot. Can't join the military, have trouble getting into college, have trouble getting a job. It's just not right. And so, my bill was really more of a discussion. And the documentary tries to focus on that discussion and shows what other states have done well and shows some best practices, shows what our veterans have been doing to wean themselves off of opioids. We deserve better. And 36 states have figured this out. We're really on the late trend. And it's my hope that as people see our documentary, legalize-texas.com, you can find it there or go find it on our Facebook. It's my hope that when people see that, they open their eyes and they start, calling their elected officials, governor, lieutenant governor, and tell them we want to change here. At the very least, our taxpayers deserve to create new revenue that doesn't mean raising property taxes, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's an alternative way.
Absolutely.
Another recent thing, kind of moving on, we did see the documentary and it was very interesting, and we're just kind of interested in how this will play out in the at the state level, because other states have legalized, like we've mentioned. Do you see any how would you like to see these tax revenues be placed into helping out? Would it be infrastructure projects, or how would you like to use some of these funds generated through the passing of this bill?
Yeah, I mean, my bill, seeks to put some money in infrastructure, education, law enforcement to a certain degree, but I'm really kind of agnostic on where the money goes. I just think that, it's here now, and all these other states have legalized. It's illegal, and we're not even arresting anybody for it now. And so we might as well regulate it and tax it properly. So I'm open. Denver and Colorado have really done some good things. We've seen people get hurt in our communities. We've seen a lot of African Americans get killed, for, in some instances, not doing anything at all. And so we need more crisis management teams to go along with our police officers. We had a veteran that was killed by a police officer in San Antonio 6 months ago because he was having a mental health crisis, and he had they checked on him the day before, and then they checked on him again the next day, and there was like a standoff for half an hour. Had we had a mental health crisis team in there, that man would still be alive today. And probably he was in his position, in his condition, probably, I don't know this, but because of the opioids that the VA put him on. And so when you see the documentary, you'll see all those veterans that have weaned themselves off of opioids on cannabis. You saw Michelle Walker's story about her son. So many women and families that have had to move to Colorado to save their epileptic children. Listen, I mean, I'm not a scientist. I don't pretend to be one. I just know what I'm seeing across the country. I know we have to have this discussion. And I thought that the documentary was a very ideal way to try to educate people on something that is all around us right now. And so why not regulate it? Why not bring it under the umbrella of government and do it right? Because not only are all those other states legalizing around us, and the other 32 states, 31 states on top of that, 36 total, but Mexico is about to legalize. And so where are we to presume that the black market of marijuana is going to fall into? And it's going to fall right smack dab in the middle of Texas. And so if we're in the business of allowing cartels to profit, well, I can tell you that I'm not. And so, you legalize it and you get rid of the cartels and you help your Texas farmers. The Winter Garden's got a lot of areas that can help get some help over there. And so to have another rotatable crop, I think is a good opportunity.
Absolutely. We just have one more question. We know you've been pretty active in submitting amendments and everything, and you came up with a utility ratepayers Bill of Rights. Could you elaborate a little bit more on that and how that helps the community?
Yeah, I mean, just today we had another amendment that we added on bills. When you're in the minority, you don't get to pass as many bills as you'd like, and we'd all like to be able to pass more bills, as would I. And, we're working to do that. We are getting a few passed, and that's a good thing. But we've added some important amendments. There was a pretty bad annexation bill that none of us really liked, or not an annexation, but a lobbying bill that none of us really liked. And I added an amendment to protect our military bases, which is important to the folks in Valverde. This notion of the Ratepayer Bill of Rights, we passed that today on a ratepayer bill. Look, the Senate passed a bill 30 days ago, 45 days ago, that the House didn't even vote on. And it was to correct the repricing over the last 32 hours during that winter storm, where they exceeded, they hit the max button, if you will, and charged utility companies 9,000 or kilowatt hour for megawatt hour. And so by doing that, the Senate was absolutely sending a message that we're going to protect ratepayers and the consumers. And what we've done today is send a message that we're going to protect consumers. And it's going to allow consumers, working class people that sometimes have trouble paying their bills, it's going to allow them a protection that says that, the electric company can't shut you down on a weekend. They can't shut you down during a winter storm. If it's below 32 degrees, they can't shut you down. They can't shut you down if it's above 100 degrees. If you've got a medical condition that requires medical devices at home, they're not going to be able to shut you down. Look at all the people that went home from COVID on oxygen machines and respirators. And many, by the way, we had 27 deaths, and I would argue even more during the winter storm. But look at the people that had COVID that went home, like my stepbrother who had an oxygen machine, and unfortunately, when his power went out, and this wasn't because of a rate issue or his inability to pay, because he does quite well for himself, but his power went out like the power to many people's homes across the state of Texas, and out went his oxygen machine. So he really labored in that situation. And so for people that are having trouble on the ratepayer side or paying their utility bills, we just provided some protections that I think are very important. And I think the Senate was very proud to do that today, and I'm very proud that I was able to get that across the finish line.
No, yeah, absolutely awesome. I know we were all shocked down here in Maverick County as well as across the state whenever we were going through the winter freeze, and it was difficult for a lot of people being without light, without water, anything like that. So we do appreciate that. Real quick, the farmer suicide prevention. You want to touch on that and how that came about?
Yeah, so I had a constituent whose father lost his life. He lost the family farm. And this is a big problem in our rural communities. So in rural areas, you're 7 times more likely to commit suicide than urban areas. I was astounded when I heard that statistic. And so we had to be able to create, even though the bill is not exactly what I wanted it to be, or the amendment wasn't exactly what I wanted it to be, we took the funding out of it. The big problem is that our small farmers, are sometimes one crop failure away from disaster. And so, unfortunately, they took the funding component of it. But like I said, the legislature is a game of inches, and hopefully we'll be able to do that. What the farmer suicide prevention bill does is it addresses a hotline through TADA, the Department of Agriculture, and they'll join efforts with Department of State Health Services to try to help people in rural communities, give them access to mental health, which is kind of the bigger problem, right? I mean, even if you're not a farmer, you don't have any psychiatrists in your community, very few. And the ones that are out there are challenged because they're dealing with a lot of people. You don't have psychologists and therapists like you would see in urban areas. And so that's part of the issue as well. So it's my hope that, next session rolls along, we'll be able to put a little bit of funding to protect our farmers that are in peril of losing their farms. Again, you're a hailstorm away from, or a drought away from a failure, and sometimes that really hurts our farmers and our communities. And so that's why we filed that bill, and then ultimately it led to an amendment on another bill. And so we're going to keep adding amendments on where we can. We've got a couple of bills coming up next week for consideration on the floor. I think that we'll get those done, and we'll keep moving forward. Listen, I'm glad to have been elected. Es un gran orgullo representar esta comunidad. I look forward to actually finishing the session and getting out to Eagle Pass and Del Rio and other areas of the Winter Garden, talking to people. And, during the winter storm, we gave out a lot of water. We gave out a lot of diapers and baby formula, thanks to a group that helped us out of California. And we're going to continue to do those kinds of things, but I'm a firm believer that government, you have to be transformational leaders. I'm not here to just be the manager and rubber stamp everything. So if I do a bill like the one that's going to shake things up at Sol Ross, I'm doing it because we need to shake things up at Sol Ross.
Yeah.
If I do a bill that's going to start a conversation on cannabis, I'm doing it because, my God, if you're not going to do my recreational bill, do a medical cannabis bill. Do anything that gets us closer to regulate a product that's already on our streets. And so, we're still in the minority, which is the other issue. We just keep moving forward. There's been a lot of bad partisan bills this session. Part of being a good legislator is not just, passing bills and amendments, but also fighting off bad things. And so we're in the process of that, slowing things down as best we can. Unfortunately, things in the House, we got to make sure that they slow them down as well. And so jointly together, we'll be able to keep bad things from happening. I don't know where you are on this, but, this constitutional carry bill is really a concern to me. Every law enforcement agency in the state of Texas is against constitutional carry. And so that's a bill that says that you can go carry your gun. And listen, I have guns. I'm fine with people having guns. I'm fine. It's just like when you drive a car, you get a license, right?
Yeah.
When you want to carry a gun, you go get the CHL. Maybe we can work on making those the class or the amount of money less or whatever it is. But just this notion that everyone should be allowed to carry a gun wherever they want, whenever they want, is a really big concern. I don't want to be able to go to HEB and be in the fruit section and 10 people have guns on their holsters. It's just, I've got children, and I understand the right to protect yourself and the right to bear arms. I'm all for it. I just think that just like I'm allowed to drive a car, but it's a privilege and it's a license. I have to access an application process and a testing and an approval process to drive a car. And so that's all I'm asking. I mean, this notion that we should let every guy, man, woman, and child have a gun if they want to, I'm sorry, I'm not for it. And so if that means that people aren't going to vote for me, I don't imagine they would have voted for me anyway. I'm a pretty conservative Democrat, but I'm sorry, I'm not going to go there. And we've been fielding a lot of calls on this deal. But.
No, and one of the questions we did get from a comment whenever we advertised that we were going to go ahead and be fielding an interview was that actual bill, the constitutional carry. So we were interested in to see. I mean, you kind of dipped into it yourself without us asking. A lot of our viewers tend to be on the conservative side. I mean, I think there's people on both sides of the fence on this one. The biggest thing is, of course, that we want to be able to protect ourselves, if anything should happen. And we appreciate your views on it, and thank you for leading into that. So when the any kind of voting, anything like that, what way would you be leaning on that? Is that just a total shutdown on that as far as you go?
No, I mean, so it's going to go to committee tomorrow, and they're probably going to start at 9 a.m. and go to 5 a.m. the next morning. I would imagine that it'll be on the floor maybe sometime next week. I hope not. I don't think the Republicans have all their votes for it. I know that there's some Republican members that have not been for it. Let's see where they go. At the end of the day, listen, I've got a lot of rural people, a big rural district, and I get that. But I don't think anybody wants to go to church and have 30 people in the church with guns. Go get a license. You want to carry a gun? Go CHL. Go get it. It's not hard. It's not hard to have a CHL. And there's this notion that the bad folks are they already have guns. Well, yeah, they do. But how in the heck? Now they're going to have a gun, and they're going to have it on their holster at HEB, and maybe it is a bad person, but you're not going to know. And so if you allow everybody to carry that gun on their holster as a sidearm, they might be the good guys, they might be the bad guys. I'd rather have everybody have their CHL. I'd rather know who's who, and I'd rather have less guns out there. I'm all for people having access to whatever gun they want. Just go get a license for it. It's not hard. Go get a license for it. And if you can't do that, well then, I'm sorry. I mean, then, I want to be able to work with people. I don't want people to think that I'm, this is a democracy. Most people in my district are like mind. Most people agree with me. Mm-hmm. There's really, just like you get a driver's license to drive your vehicle, which by the way can kill you. You have to go take a class, take a shooting class, take a course that takes a day, sign an application process, go through it all, and get a gun, which can kill you or someone else. And so that's all I'm asking for. I don't think that constitutional carry is all that big of a deal. I understand that it is to a lot of people. Maybe you're going to win next week. I don't know. I hope not. I hope not, because every law enforcement agency, every sheriff's department, and every law enforcement agency in the state of Texas is against this bill. And so that's what I tell my law-abiding citizens that want to protect their Second Amendment rights. I'm all for you. Go get all the guns you want. Go put them in your house. Just go get a license if you want to carry one. And your local sheriff, he doesn't want this bill. And your local police chief, they don't want this bill. And so I'm going to listen to the experts, and I'm going to use my common sense on this one.
Awesome. Well, I mean, we don't want to take up too much of any more of your time. We really appreciate you meeting with us in between your committee meetings. We know right now during legislature, things get kind of hectic and busy. I don't know if there's any last words that you want to say to the people that are watching out there right now, and the people that are going to watch afterwards. But any last messages you have to say? It's your time.
No, listen, I thank you for giving me the opportunity to be on the show. We're going to keep moving forward. Vamos a seguir trabajando para la comunidad in a right way. We've got to keep working with our stakeholders and working and making sure. So here's the good news that's happening. And it's happening to Valverde, and it's happening to Maverick, and everywhere in between. Under the Biden administration, you got CARES Act money coming to those two counties, for instance, probably about $3 million additional. The president is announcing another American Families Act today. Going to be more money to your community, your local community. We just released, the governor finally released the education dollars from the federal government. So that's federal money that came down. That's going into your community. There's an infrastructure plan that the Biden administration wants to do, which is going to put more money into your community. Why is it just money? No. I mean, when we say money, it means jobs, right? So I am working with your local mayors and your local county judges to be a conduit to the federal government. Henry Cuellar, who has a little bit of District 19 as well, he's a congressman. He's been very helpful. He's a Democrat out of Laredo. He's been very helpful. We're working very much well together to inform our communities about what's happening and how they're going to get affected. And I think that what you're going to see is a lot of good things moving forward insofar as economic resources, family stabilization resources, job creation. We're certainly going to get through this COVID crisis. And we're going to create infrastructure with new infrastructure dollars. So we've got to get all our state, federal, local officials together on the same page to find out what projects that are important to us. And it's going to mean jobs for yourselves, jobs for our primos and primas out there that are listening. That's what it's about. Transforming, politics and is about making sure that we provide a better quality of life, better education, better jobs. And I'm glad to see that the Biden administration has taken this horrible situation that we've been in with COVID-19, this horrible pandemic, and it's getting us out in a very positive way. Not going to make everybody happy. We still have an immigration problem to solve. We still have this humanitarian crisis to solve. It takes time. It takes time. But we're all in this together. Whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, we are all in this together, and we should all work well with one another to try to do the things the government is supposed to do. Job creation, better education, better quality of life. Make sure that we have the right kind of healthcare system. If we can just kind of get rid of all the crazy partisan stuff, we can focus on the things that are most important, those core principles I just mentioned. And so I know there's a lot of people on both the left and the right that would love to pull us apart. But understand that it's not so bad in the middle, right? That's a lot of this country is just there should be a common sense party, right? Mm-hmm. And so my common sense says we can do this together. We can. Isak, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate the opportunity to be able to talk to people in your community, and I look forward to visiting with you again.
No, on the contrary, it's us that we thank you. We know you're a busy man being there on the Senate floor, taking care of things, and not only for our district but for the entire state of Texas. So we thank you for your time, Senator Roland Gutierrez, and like you said, we hope we can have you back here on a show later on and maybe talk about some of the updates some of the things that have changed from now until then.
Yeah, anytime. It's going to be this session ends at the end of May, but my suspicion is we're going to have about 3 special sessions. Definitely 2. And so those take about 30 days each.
Okay.
It's going to be crazy, and we just keep moving the ball, moving forward.
Absolutely. Thank you. And we'll catch up with you later and see if we can catch you another time for another visit with us.
Okay. Thank you, brother. I appreciate you. Have a nice evening, and God bless you.
You too. Be safe.
Yes, sir. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, guys. That was Senator Roland Gutierrez taking a little bit of time to talk with us and bring up some of the issues on his end. Something a little different that we're trying to do is get all of our elected officials, whether they're local officials, state officials, or Congressman Tony Gonzalez, who now is one of the only ones that's not a local elected official that hasn't stopped by and to speak with us as far as or hasn't reached out to us, hasn't responded to us in having to do with an interview that we would like to get him in sometime soon. We know his re-election is around the corner, and we would like to speak with him about what he's done, what he's been able to accomplish for his constituency out here in Congressional District 23. Going on from what we had earlier with the senator, that was a part of the show that we wanted to bring you a little bit earlier than we regularly do. But we did accommodate to his schedule, being, he is our state senator. So a busy person like that, we'll take that earlier time. What we're going to go ahead and do, guys, is take a quick little break. Take a quick little break, and we're going to be back in about 10-15 minutes or so, and we're going to get to the good stuff, the serious stuff, what's going on in our community. Now, we're going to start up another live right now in about 10-20 minutes or so. we're just going to take a little break, but we're going to get into some serious stuff out here that's been going on in your community and what you need to know about it. The elections is going on with the city council. We had early voting is over. We have several elected officials that have reached out to us, have committed to an interview either tomorrow or Friday. We have some that haven't. Stay tuned for that one. That's going to be a good thing. We're trying to get a hold of these elected officials for the local election. We have election day coming up Saturday. So that's going to be real interesting for you guys out there, because we want to see what these elected officials have to say. And this is going to be their final interview. So we have some scheduled. We have some that are not scheduled. So we're going to come back and talk to you about that. We're going to talk about who we have scheduled, who hasn't come up. We're actually going to bring you a video from yesterday's commissioner's court meeting, where we have footage of our judge, County Judge David Salcedo, being a little less than professional. Let's just go ahead and say it out and not beat around the bush about it. He did a few things. He said something. He may have threatened another member of Commissioner's Court. So we want to hear from the public and see what you guys think about it. So we'll be back in about 10-15 minutes, guys. Take a little quick break. We'll start up a brand new live for you. And this one's going to be only about local issues, local topics. We have a few things that we're going to touch on. But of course, this show will go ahead and defer to the comments and hear what you guys have to think. So we'll be back, guys. Give us about 10-15 minutes to get a little organized here after this one. And hopefully we have 25 people on right now. Hopefully those 25 and more people will be able to add on to our regularly scheduled little thing we like to do for you guys here on Facebook. And switch gears a little bit from the state level with the senator to get down to our local level, what's happening in our county, what's happening with these elections, and see what people have to say in the comments. All right, guys, so we'll be back in a little bit with y'all. And thank you guys for watching our interview with Senator Roland Gutierrez.